Ladies and gentlemen, this is federal-postal-judge Monty-Edwin Mueller. He's been with, he was a friend of Dave's too for a long time. Monty, I'm going to step out for a few minutes, and I would like you to give them a background on how you got started, because the world doesn't really know about you a lot. How you met me and the stories behind meeting me and going to Dave's, and the structure about some of the things that we're witnessing out here about the closure issue. We covered a lot today. These guys have got themselves a structural background in the postal construct that was set up under the shareholders, so they know those stories. They know about the David signing the paperwork as an adjective pronoun in the court martial. We went over that, and the ramifications and the fights, and the tough love and the things that that I've come through. And I'd like to give them a background about you, your authorization, how Dave appointed you a judge, and then what really happened there and how that came about through me, and go into, take your time on it. We got nothing but time here, and the world needs to hear closure, because I'm functioning, as you know, within the 45-day trust moratorium of the passing of David Miller, and I'm maintaining the rules of the continuance of the evidence through 12B7 through 12B1. So know that you're very cognizant of that. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and someone who has tremendous courage, and I cannot speak more high of a gentleman. His performance speaks for itself. He will discuss threats. He will discuss the things that he's been through. And ladies and gentlemen, Federal Postal Judge Monty-Edwin Mueller.
Hey, Judge Miller. Hello.
I'm glad to be here. To give you guys some background, I started in this program approximately 96, 97. The reason I came forward and started learning this stuff was I knew the system was fractured and didn't know where the fracture was. So started learning that it was in language. Worked with David for many years. David helped me with my own cases and things like that. And then at that point, what I thought he had done at that point was trained me into a federal-judge position in 2010 is when he appointed that to me. I met Russell approximately 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, and privately was able to, actually Russell and I got together and we drove up to David's house from my location, and I got to sit in a car for 35 straight hours and realized that David had compartmentalized me to prevent me from participating correct, and that was very disenchanting. We got to David's house, and David didn't actually know I was going there. It wasn't a sneaky trick. It was just, we were just going to surprise him. He's always said, "Come on up whenever you can." So when we arrived, David comes out into the driveway, and he says, "Oh, leave," and goes running into the house. The best guess I can have for that behavior of his is that I got 35 hours in a car with Russell, and Russell provided the mechanics necessary for me to function. So that's kind of what happened there. Then Russell and I just got the opportunity to talk and speak with each other for some time, and then we came up with this issue of a Leighton-Lino ward that David wanted to make a federal-postal-court-clerk, and said that he had all the information in the background knowledge for that position. Come to find out that he really didn't. Didn't know how to syntax, didn't know his procedures, or didn't know his methods. He was advertising on a website in a fiction or fraudulent language format. We asked him, or I did anyways, asked him multiple times he needs to fix that because you can't traverse with the fiction. He wouldn't fix it. We asked we asked David to talk to him to have him fix it. They wouldn't fix it. Anyhow, so because of that, Russell and I then did a hold harmless with Leighton and David's clerks. Uh, one of the clerks, of the three clerks, Layton was the only one that autographed onto it, taking position in that hold harmless. The other two wouldn't autograph it, and so David came forward and then he autographed it in their stead.
So can you hold on, Monty? Can I give a little closure about why he did that? Because the audience is very untrained in judge mechanics. They don't know well. They don't know much. So, maybe you do. I don't know. But okay. So when David came on, because David authorized these vessels, and he told us that their thinking had the capacity to comprehend 12b7 through 12b1. He told Monty and I to get on the phone with them and talk to them. So we got on the phone with them, and come to find out, I don't know if you told this story, these folks knew nothing. I asked them specifically, what is the job of a clerk? Their answer is, I don't know. And we're like, file and log the paperwork. Take the fee for freight for the court and authorize a trial. They had no clue. Of course, the red flags went up with Monty and I. We spent 2.5, 3 hours on the phone with these three individuals. Yeah. And they knew nothing. And so I started breaking down the mechanics of being a clerk. So we called David on the phone and we're like, what are you doing? You know, and oh, these guys are great. I'm like, they're going to get themselves in harm's way. And just like Monty, did you tell him the story about, sorry, I'm jumping around here. Did you tell him the story about Dave trying to authorize you as a judge and all the missing mechanics that you had?
Yeah, I just shortly mentioned it, that it wasn't until I met Russell in the 35-hour travel that we had that I came to comprehend that I didn't have the mechanics behind me necessary to function for my position. And then Russell, through time and working with him, gave me those mechanics that I was missing.
And what was David's reaction when he saw you and I together?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that too. He freaked out, said a cuss word, and ran into the house and shut the door. And like I said, I speculate that the reason that occurred is he realized that I had 35 hours in the car with Russell to ask him any question I wanted. So.
And did I give you full?
But I suspect that's true.
Did I give you full closure on what you asked?
Yes.
And did I wait for you to ask the correct question so I knew where your knowledge was?
Yes.
Always. Okay. I just continue on about Layton, and we'll get it. I'm going to pull up some of the paperwork as you're talking, and we're going to scroll down from 1 to page 43, and basically what we had found, and I'll let Monty get into the mechanics because it's his ship's channel. So we're not trying to bash Dave here, but we stopped and corrected on a ship's channel. And Monty, can you explain the mechanics of that a little bit? We'll just start there.
Yes, I certainly can. Would you like me to start at this moment?
No, go ahead. Take your time on what you're doing.
Okay. What I wanted to get to, and I don't know whether you want to jump back and forth in the paperwork, but really the important piece of paper to look at it first to begin to comprehend what's happening here is that oath that Russell and I signed off on that went over to Layton, which changed the ship's channel, or the owner of it, not the owner of it, that never changed. But that's what the whole matter was about. And I don't know if you have that up there, Russell.
I don't. Oh, and here's the scam of Layton's court. Just let me show you guys the scam of Layton's court and Dave's court. Let me show you how this works. Hey, Monty.
Yeah.
Hey, can you explain the syntax on the colon in front of Dave's for the Federal Postal Court stamp?
Yeah. Your depending on the location, is my camera up? I didn't know if it's up.
No.
Depending on the location of a full colon, it can mean the words for thee or of thee. In this scenario, it's right next to the word, and because it's next to the word, it's for the. So when he did that, it then modified all the language or the words behind it, which turns that stamp into an adverb verb. It's a fiction. It says nothing. So that it's not documenting anything. Additionally, I would like to point out that
He put it on our paperwork.
that David :space D period hyphen W period :space M period. While we can assume what that means, all abbreviations must be articulated within the document. He was supposed to autograph it. So how do you know who this is if there isn't an articulation or definition in your paperwork of who that is or what that is?
So back to, if anybody out there sees this colon on their paperwork in front of the thing, the court is totally an adverb verb. This is done with volition. And we've identified this to Dave to stop and correct. But he's got a pocket full of numbers and he can do whatever he wants. So at least the world has closure on this now. So Monty, where are we going to go first with this?
Where I would go right now is I would go to Layton's oath to the number and then go from the number to the syntaxed postal download that we did that I syntaxed but shows how the shipper receivership works. And I can articulate the mechanics behind that. It shows it changes the shipping line.
Well, coincidentally enough, I just happened to be right on that page. I don't know how I did that. I think this was a hold harmless, but anyways, Monty, okay, so what we're going to show you guys here is...
I'm finding it here myself.
Okay, so what we're going to show you here is how the trap has been laid against Layton. And what he thinks and what is are two separate things. And the federal judicial system actually knows this. They've been watching this lawsuit, they've been taking the paperwork, and they're not going to tell Layton. So he's just sitting there spinning his wheels because they know all this. We've identified it to the federal government. And Dave knows it too, or did, you know. And we'll get into that. But here's what we're talking about. Okay, so here's Layton's federal postal clerk oath. And here is who it was mailed to. There's his oath number, right? See the number? When you do the cross-reference in the postal system, the mailing goes from David to Monty. Here it is. So memorize that number, RA 286-254-036. Now let's go up to his oath. Postal registration oath. RA 286-254-036 US. So what's happened here is Layton is not in the ship's channel with his oath. So he goes out and files a bunch of paperwork thinking that he's in the sea lane. So when he shows up in the courts, they don't have to pull out his number because he ain't there. And that's the trap. The man's going to do a lot of serious time for this. A lot of time. And anybody associated with this is going to lose. So anyway, this is just one of many things here. So can you walk them through the paperwork?
Yes, which part of it do you want me to walk through?
Just the oath and his oath.
Okay, well, what I can say how what had happened was David called me, said, "Say, I want to, Russell, if you could put your mic on mute, that would be helpful."
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So David called me and says, "Hey, I want to do this oath with Layton. Want you guys to sign off on it. Want Russell and I to sign off on it at that time." So that's when David sent the mail to me, which had that registered mail on it. Then he instructed me to take that registered mail off and then put it on the back of Layton's paperwork, autograph it, and then send off. And, I believe he was going to take it to Russell, or I sent it to Russell. I don't recall at that moment. But at that time, I wasn't thinking about, let's follow this number. There might be something happening here. I was just doing what he wanted me to do to get an oath through. It wasn't until Russell and I looked at it and said, "Hey, wait, that's your number." So that means everything, all the paperwork that Layton was doing is going to show that it's my number that's doing it. That's an identity theft. that we were like, wow, we have to stop and correct, and that's exactly what we did. We stopped and corrected by doing the postal consumer complaint, getting,
I'm gonna scroll.
letting David know that this needs to be fixed, the numbers need to be corrected. So.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. My apologies.
That's right. I'm going to go up to the first part of the lawsuit, and we're going to.
Okay.
Now that you've explained that, we're going to go through. So here's Monty and I. We have our evidence, which you guys just saw, and it concerned us because Leighton was being active and started filing lawsuits with Monty's number. Because the vessel went to Monty, not to Leighton.
Yeah.
So the federal judicial system knows this because they listen to the calls. They know exactly what's going on.
And David did that.
And David knew because, Monty, can you take over about your explanations to David, and then I'll explain mine.
We asked David to fix it, and David basically laughed and joked and said, we said, I called him and said, have you given Leighton new numbers? And David's like, I've got a pocket full of numbers, I can do anything I want. And so that didn't fix anything. It just said that, it just told us that he's just going to do whatever he wants. So, like I said, we went forward with the paperwork lawsuit and also the summary judgment document and all that for failure of correspondence and all the necessary things he was supposed to do. But the bottom line is Russell and I tried talking to him multiple occasions for years, and he just wouldn't do it. Wouldn't fix it. And Leighton then was hung out to dry because Leighton didn't know the mechanics of what he was looking at. Had no idea. I don't know what to say about that than other than it's a very sad position that he's in.
Yeah.
Is there anything Leighton can do to correct where he's at now? Is anything he can do to get out of the hole?
I would say yes, but the answer to that would also include that he must have had some other paperwork in place in order to do anything at all. And to kind of answer that, if I may, Russell, I'm going to go into the claim of the live life on that.
Sure.
Okay. In order to be able to make a claim, one has to have the start position or nativity position of a claim of the live life. Without the claim of the live life, you can't make a claim for anything that you want to claim. So then the question on the table, or the question that you asked me, is can Leighton fix it? I don't know if he has a claim of the live life. I don't know if David trained him to have a claim of the live life. I don't know. But that's where I would start.
And then he doesn't know anything, and so it's very difficult to deal with somebody who doesn't know because he doesn't know where he's at in time and space. He thinks he's a clerk. Feds already know what's going on, right? They're like, yeah, right. And they don't have to send us paperwork. And they can steamroll him because he has no ship's channel. He's not en route anywhere. He's just spun. Dave's got him spun. And he's just sitting there spinning in free space, and they're just clobbering him. And he doesn't have any judge mechanics, so he doesn't know how to put himself on trial. He just knows nothing. And this is why we don't authorize judges for like 15 years, because they don't know anything. And they get into these situations where they get spun up, and again, back to the Janice-K-Logan case, right? We're looking at history here, right? We're looking at somebody's judicial history. So we're going to take a look, because there's a lot more actors out here now, right? So they're all being given closure. You win and lose by how you choose. So good luck with that one. So anyway, they're thinking that they're doing correct. But can you be halfway pregnant? You better know. You better know. And these guys that are out here now making all these claims, they're nowhere to be found in the correctness. And they're just being set up, and the government will let them step into it, collect as much as they can, and then harvest them all. It's good business.
Yeah.
It's good business. Right? They have to let the guys turn and spin and act like they know what they're doing. It's great business. Job security.
Yeah, and if you enter any kind of paperwork whatsoever, fiction has a right to ask you to authenticate your position. If you can't authenticate your position, then what's left? Copying, lying. What is left?
Which is what we're.
Lack of knowledge. Then they'll hammer you because they're gatekeepers.
Anyway, so we're gonna go into the federal postal consumer complaint here. All right, postal consumer complaint. Okay, and this was authorized for a federal postal synthesis. So we're looking at ships breaking. It means trespassing on a vessel, right? This name, David Winkle Miller, appeared on these vessels. It was not sent to David Winkle Miller. It was sent to Mark Colin Corba. It was sent to Cheryl Sue Marshall. It was sent to Lionel Ward Leighton Lionel Ward. But Leighton autographed it. He joined. Because we needed to be held harmless from him the most because he was hurting himself the most. And so we saw this happening and we were active about it. Very active about this because we considered it very serious to what he was doing to people. We have a job of public safety ourselves. We don't put people in harm's way. We keep people out of trouble. That's our job. That's our oath. You have my oath. It says I'm supposed to be correct. Why do you think I take so few people? Because it takes me so long to educate them. I'm with them for so long and I know it. Because I want them to be able to function at the highest level so they can walk in anywhere in the world and I don't have to babysit them. That's a great feeling where I can take you guys in there and I don't have to babysit you because I'm usually into my downloads and to the normal person it's going to sound very foreign. But when you maintain the rules of the continuance of the evidence and you function in a timely manner, the world is yours. So, I don't know how that's happening. Okay, so Monty, I'm just kind of going through the paperwork here. I'm scrolling down through the caption. Who has knowledge of all this? Well, the United States Postal Service, because we had to give, these are the people we sent this to, so they knew that Monty and I were stopping and correcting, even though Dave wouldn't stop and correct. So this lawsuit was sent to David Winkle Miller, Postmaster General, Postal Inspector, dealing with, because he was coming in as that on the paperwork. He was signing off as a Postmaster General. Well, if you remember in the very beginning of the shareholders, he was not a Postmaster General. Right? Well, it comes with knowledge. You have to know where you're at in time and space. You just can't go do these things that I do and not be able to back it up. Right? You have to be able to authenticate 12B7 through 12B1, thus the documentation. So the world doesn't get afraid, then they can judge or look at the forensics. Because I don't want to lie. I want to be honest. If I'm wrong, guess what I do? I stop and correct. Pretty humble thing to do, and I'm willing to do it. Because I'm stepping up here to the world saying, well, this is correctness. Well, I'm no better than anyone else. I make wrongs myself. But I stop and correct. I stay humble. I stay meek. I educate on what levels I can. But I do confess, I'm a difficult guy to get a hold of. And I do that on purpose. Because I value my time. So, who else I knowledge of this? Department of the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, the United States Department of Justice, the United States State Department, the Universal Postal Union, and these are our shipping claims here. These are our numbers. This is the federal. There's the number right there that was mailed to federal postal judge. So Leighton's oath was mailed to a federal postal judge. It was not mailed to a federal postal clerk. So because of that, he's just sitting there spinning. He's jumping up and down and saying, well, you guys signed the oath, you guys signed the oath. We autographed the oath, but that was prior to the shipping. Once the shipping, he had us autograph the oath, had me autograph it. I said, and I looked at him, I said, you know what you're doing? Does he know what he's doing? Because I don't think he knows, oh, I got this covered. I said, he doesn't know what he's doing. So then Dave mailed the oath to Monty. Monty's on so on all Leighton's cases, he's running Monty's number. Punch it up online, it goes to Monty. That's not, and all these people are unsuspecting public, which are being damaged because the closure wasn't given. Back to what I said at the beginning. First rule of contract, knowledge and closure. Without those, we cannot make valuable choices because we're not benefiting our lives if we don't have the necessary full closure. Thus, that's what this documentary and this trial is about, is to make sure the world knows the closure on the mechanics. So when all these people step up, we're looking for their copyright release. We're looking for the mechanics. Did they follow the 45-day trust moratorium from when he passed? We're looking for all these things. So these are the things we're not finding from other people. I'm not seeing anyone step up. I'm asking everyone to come. Glad we have nice witnesses here. You guys are asking great questions today. I hope you're learning about the structure of the quantum system that's been set up. And I feel that you're judging by your reaction, you're very content with what you're seeing. For sure. So this is the lawsuit, and we always start off, that's the caption, we always start off with the nativity, who the shippers are. Right? Here's my number, RR294568221US. Again, I'm going to say, anybody in the world that has that contract on there, if my thumbprint and fingerprint aren't on that contract, it's not valid. Why? Because I'm the shipper of that contract. We're going to get into that when we break down the evidence in here. Right? In fact, let me skip back and forth on evidence. So every single statement has evidence supporting it in here. Then we maintain the chain of the custody on the facts. We don't allow outside subjective interpretation to enter into our lawsuit. Well, would you look at that? If we look sideways there. Wait, I can't flip that. Sorry, I apologize. There you go. RR294568221US. Now, wait a minute. That's shipped to the Postmaster General. Okay, so let's see how that works. There's the date on it. Here's the evidence. Let's go to the very... And lo and behold, there's the label I told you about that the post office put across my stamp on my green card return. Labels are classified as tickets. Tickets are classified as postage stamps. And postage stamps are autographed by postmasters. I just became the Postmaster General at that location. And you ought to see when I go to that location, get a lot of cooperation. A lot of fear, too, because they're very afraid. They can't help themselves what they don't know. So, anyway, as you can see, this is my number. I'm the shipper. I'm the nativity. David's gone. Those using that number, no more. Your time is to come and gone. So let's go back up to the next statement, because everything's supported by evidence. You must have written confession. Monty.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you
Okay.
can you explain a little bit about? And there's the endorsement on the back of the first page of the lawsuit, just like we do for anything. Can you explain about when the first time David received the lawsuit and the phone calls you received, and the threats, and can you explain a little bit about all that?
Talking to Dave. Okay, when I sent the hold harmlesses out, David called and said these two people don't want to do it. His wife Corba didn't want to do it, and I said, well, it needs to be done. And he says, and he said he was going to sign it. I'm like, okay, but anyhow, I said, but I want it done. He says, well, he says to me, it's going to cost you. And I said to him, well, what does that mean? Are you threatening me? and he never answered. So I don't know what he meant by that, other than it came clearly across to me as a threat.
And that was on the hold harmless. When he received the lawsuit, what did he say?
Oh, the McNaughton? Oh, I haven't read. Well, try to maintain McNaughton, saying, "Well, I haven't read it yet." And so he did that. He did that a bunch of times. Was saying Russell was off the reservation, meaning that he's lost his mind or whatever. And what he was doing there is he was actually asking me and to see whether I could articulate what I knew the lawsuit was about. Well, yes, I can. I know what it is. I was there. I know the numbers. I know the mechanics. And after that, Russell, honestly, everything was, oh yeah, I haven't read it yet. I haven't done anything yet. Just to maintain McNaughton.
So what we did is we didn't let him certify McNaughton. We stayed on point and we started hitting him, which we're going to go through. We're going to start looking at dates and mechanics, and we ran things by the books against this guy. So we're going to go through some of those judge mechanics as we break down the function of the lawsuit for the safeguard of the federal postal system, court system, and for the safeguard of the those that have been caught up in it. Which means there's a lot of people that are caught up in lawsuits that need this closure.
It was about 500 I heard.
Well, they need this. They need this closure so they can see where the culpability is. Layton's in nonsense. He has no knowledge of what he's doing. And he certifies it every time he opens his mouth in that system. Okay, so from a judge's function and knowing correctness, the people that he damaged have a very valid grief against Layton. Very valid. But they also have a grievance against David. But they didn't show up here today. So under the 45-day trust moratorium, they vacate their estate for the statement of a claim, which is very nice for the Federal Postal Court. Paragraph 2. So this is an interesting statement. So paragraph 2, we're starting to break down. Here's the facts. The facts are in paragraph 1 that I'm the shipper on this thing. So now we're going to look at the verb of thinking. And we never got a chance to break down its condition of mind, because when we read this thing backwards, for this federal postal judge, federal postal postmaster, for this federal judge, federal postal judge, postmaster banker, plenipotentiary judge, postmaster general, postal inspector, David Wynn Collins' knowledge of this federal postal corporation. See, we're interchanging prepositions here. Of this Federal Postal Corporation ships channel number RR 294-568 221 U.S. evidence herein is, with the Federal Postal Court synthesis, the date that it was mailed on 2000, by your name. Is his name on the original shipping? Because the evidence is no. And I did not authorize that number to be transshipped to him. Because in this, we stopped and corrected. He's very cognizant of this, or he was. Paragraph 2. So we're talking here about Monty and I coming together under corporation on April 2nd, 2014, with this bill of lading, with this boarding cargo of RE 881-080-388 US, because somebody boarded aboard the cargo, which was the cargo of words, the cargo of contract, which was mailed to Cheryl-Sue Marshall and Mark Corba. So why is somebody else boarding that vessel? I'm trying to figure that out. If you're not ship's company, don't come aboard. Show up to any port in the world on a vessel that you're on. And as you pull up there, what's the first thing they got to do? They got to pull out the manifest to give closure on who's coming on or off the vessel. If the ship's captain in that vessel doesn't like someone coming up the port, he either needs to stay out in international waters beyond 12 miles or create the joinder at the dock, on the mooring, the contracts of the mooring. In this specific case, we did not authorize David Winkle and Miller to board those vessels. So we're asking him the questions here. See, we're asking him, since we have knowledge of this, you're boarding the vessel. There's the number. It wasn't mailed to you. You have knowing. You knew. You knew this was not meant for you. It was meant for somebody else. Because we're keeping ourselves safe because David spun these people up, turned them loose, and they had no knowledge. For those of us probably not in this room, but people watching on the YouTube and the videos, this is very, very valuable closure if you're caught up in this. And there's a lot of you. Is that what I comprehend?
That's what I comprehend, yes.
Okay, so this is closure for you. But we're going back to look at the performance again today. We're just looking at performances. Tomorrow we're going to look at volition. We're going to step into more mechanical teaching about setting up your own ship's channels, controlling your own world. Say this is just closure on the shareholders' side. So people have the necessary closure to make choices whether they want to join or board our vessels or not. It's very important for me to give that to the world. Porting fact, channel numbers, and then back into Leighton's number, and it just talks about the people that have been vacated. And the Department of Justice and all these people have knowledge of this. So we kept it. Monty and I kept the federal government in its synthetic form closure because we thought that they might try to come in after Monty, because all roads led to Monty. So we were covering Monty's back, safeguarding, giving closure, teaching them how to throw everybody in jail, and they're going to do a good job for us. Which is cool. Not cool for the people involved, but cool. Let's see, paragraph 4. We're talking about the corporation case again, and Dave creating damage because Title 42, 1986. We stopped and corrected. Monty and I came through with the ship-breaking closure to David. And we stopped and corrected. We did our fiduciary duty within our postal court construct. It was not our duty to go public with this because there was one guy with the authorization ship and that was directly contacting Cheryl, Mark, and Leighton. That was David Winkle and Miller. This was his task. If you want to claim that you're the chief, take accountability for what you do. And I have to do that, and sometimes it's tough for me. A lot of times it's tough for me because I have to make tough choices and people don't like it because they don't have the necessary background to comprehend the work that's been done here. So we're starting to see a lot of that now that Dave's passed, that people are out here making these claims and making these authorizations and claiming this and claiming that. And they're going to get a lot of people in trouble. Because the forensics don't lie. They tell the truth. They give correctness. They give closure. The next thing I want to talk about is, remember how I told you guys we function within a timeline. Nothing becomes law for 1 year, 1 day. We gave Dave here one year, 1 day to stop and correct. And that's a porting fact under Title 42, 1986. 364 days. We gave him the 1 year, 1 day, 3 day rescission closure on that. So we covered our back against any liability towards the Federal Postal Court. Federal Postal Court is not liable for any of this. So the world has closure on that. Monty, do you have any suggestions or closure?
At the moment, I was just thinking about making sure that people comprehend the breaking bulk on how David started this ball rolling of triggering, I guess you would say. I guess we're looking at a pattern, as you know that he did the adjective oath, and I guess we're trying to show that pattern.
Okay. Never thought of it in that manner. I'm just showing evidence here, but yeah, I mean, we're not going to speculate. We're just going to look at the performance. I can't call it trickery, but I can.
Yeah.
But I can say that the forensics support the closure that David had for the stopping and correcting.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, because you can't tell Dave that he was involved in trickery.
That's true.
You cannot tell people what they're thinking. You can only look at the prepositioning of the performance. In this case, the performance was to spin him up. And you remember how he used to laugh about Leighton going to jail.
Yes.
So I always question, I always looked at him, what's the condition of mind? He's like, well, he's going to jail, he's going to jail. Doesn't know what he's doing. Well, that's unfair to Leighton, and that's Leighton's damage against Dave. And Leighton has that right, he just doesn't have the knowledge. He doesn't know how to go into that function. So, okay. We're talking about the consideration of the postal levy and also in title for in reporting facts. So we're going to put this all up online so you guys, the world, can have closure on this, because y'all need some closure. I can do this now. The reason why I could not do it, I was not involved in the copyrights of Leighton's functions. And now that I have copyright lease on the 45th day, within the 45-day moratorium, I can give closure on that. So on Monday or Tuesday, I can field questions on the copyrights, and we're going to get into those mechanics tomorrow. We're just kind of, this is why I have not stepped forward in the Leighton issues, is because I'm not on the copyrights. But now that Dave has passed under the 45-day trust moratorium, I can give closure on it, so I can say something now. I just filed it with the post office. I just changed the location, so this is now in my venue where I can make comments, but I cannot tell people what Leighton did. I can only look at the condition of mind. What was the condition of mind? I can't look at his performances because I have no joiner with that. I have contract with David's performance, not with Leighton. So I hold harmless with Leighton. He was smart enough to but I think David was upset with him. David, I was supposed to meet with Leighton in Sacramento when I went to that one basketball tournament up there. Remember I told you I was meeting with Leighton, and Dave called him on the phone and specifically said, don't meet him. And he canceled on me. I was actually an hour from meeting him. And he says, I can't meet you. Gotta go. All right, because you don't want closure. Good luck, you know.
So we were trying to help him.
Yeah, he said I was trying to help him. Dave told him I was trying to help him, and Leighton couldn't accept that help because he was under Dave's copyrights. So,
Speak for a moment. I was helping Leighton too in trying to get him to correct his website.
oh, I didn't know about that. Could you give closure on that?
Yes, I told Leighton that because he was advertising in an adverb verb, he was traversing.
Oh, yeah.
It's an in and out box: fiction in, fiction out, fact in, fact out. And then he starts advertising all over the place for correctness or for quantum grammar in an adverb verb, offering them guarantees in an adverb verb, mailing the lawsuits fiction to fiction with a fact lawsuit in it.
Okay, I'm gonna scroll down to the evidence of that, and then I'm gonna come back up to where were we here?
I don't know if that's
Yeah, it's part in here.
okay.
We got a lot in here, Monty. I mean,
I need to know, and we've been doing this for years, so.
we need a lot of work on this Leighton fiasco. Oh, here it is. No, that's Idlewild. That's to you.
I'm not so sure that was part of this suit, because the lawsuit was specifically dealing with David and not Leighton. The hold harmless.
That's
was
right.
So I just want to throw that in there. I don't know that that's in there, but I just wanted to articulate that Russell and I on multiple occasions were trying to help fix these problems. and nobody was willing to take the help.
Sorry, Monty, I went the wrong way here.
No worries.
Not very good at those.
Well, it's a lot to sift through.
Well, I'm getting closer. Yeah. Oh, I guess we did use trickery here. Okay, yeah, so.
You're right, though, to answer that with that again, to revisit that, we gave it a question, not a claim.
That's right, we gave it a question. So here we talk about in paragraph 5 that we've been that you've been under usury with the number. And then you mailed Layton's number, the RA number, to Monty. And you have knowledge of this, Title 42, 1986. The guy had knowledge of what he was doing. So then we asked the question, is for your volition of the vacancy closure and trickery with the use of the federal numbers, with the usury by David Winkle and Miller. Do you know what you're doing? Is this a trick? We want to know. The world wants to know. As a federal postal court, I know we stopped and corrected. I know that what happened in the Layton-Lionel Ward does not have any joinder with the federal postal court because he's not actually in it. He's in no man's land, derelict, walking without papers, sitting there holding nose up, screaming, yelling, thinking he's syntaxing, wondering why the courts aren't having to do anything. Wondering why he's good. Number one, they know. Number one, they've been kept up to speed the whole time by us, so they know. And number two, he was put in a position where he did not have the capacity to know the functions of what he was doing. He lacked knowledge. But I stopped and corrected. Monty Ectonetto and Miller and the corporation stopped and corrected. And now that days passed, we can give closure on this. Because we could not, because we were not on the copyrights of any of Layton's cases. David was. But now that I have copyright, lease on it, I can come forward with this closure. Go ahead. Do you have anything, Monty?
No, that was pretty clear to me there. I'm trying to read while I'm listening here too. So
yeah, I'm down in paragraph 7 right now.
Yes.
And this
I don't know if you want to explain a bit about the shipwreck, or I don't know what you want to do with that.
Okay. So after we asked him the question on the volition, since we did not get any correspondence back, we had to put David, at the end of the sentence, because he shipwrecked this number, Monty's number. And yet, he told Layton to go. And here's Monty's number sitting there to Monty. And we did everything we could. We talked to him on the phone. We sent him paperwork. We sent him lawsuits. We sent him hold harmless. It's all in the forensics here. And we'll post this online for you guys. In fact, we may have it on site at the Federal Postal Court website. Okay, yeah, we might have it on the Federal Postal Court website. Is that where you saw it? Okay, yeah, you've probably seen this. Yeah, it's all up for, but the public doesn't know what they're looking at. So now that I have copyright lease on the grammar, I can start giving closure under 3 days. I'm giving 3-day closure on this. So it is up on the Federal Postal Court website, so you can watch this. So we're identifying this is a shipwreck. You got a vessel here that's been shipwrecked. Not only the shipwreck of the number to Monty, but the shipwreck to anybody associated with that number, because they don't stand a chance. Go ahead. Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Just to clarify, that shipwreck is for Cheryl Sue. Cheryl Sue.
Okay, for Cheryl
Just
Sue.
want- Yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay,
Yes.
yep. Okay, that shipwreck is.
Correct.
Okay, so and then we identify him boarding the contract. And
Yes.
that's all down below. And then the next number, the RA286, is that your number?
So hold on. give me a second.
Down in paragraph C.
I'm looking at
Because we got a lot of numbers here.
I know. The 036 is my number. The 06 is Cheryl's number. The 221, of course, is yours. And the the 036 is mine. The 066 is Cheryl's. That's correct.
Okay, I'm just going down because I'm still in that paragraph.
I'm at C.
Basically telling him that he can't use the number anymore. He can't use my number in paragraph G. Paragraph H. Basically gives timelines that within the 45-day or 70 days. Okay, so federal judges have 70 days to join the case. So we hit the paperwork right on time on the 70th day. So it's just giving closure on the timelines. We're maintaining the rules of the continuance of evidence on this case. And it's a lot to go through, and I apologize. But all this is relevant to tomorrow and what we're doing there. Paragraph J. Oh, yeah, okay, so in paragraph, this is an interesting statement. In paragraph H, we're identifying the time frame, and then we're asking him flat out. We put Dave at the end of the sentence is, okay, so in paragraph I, you have a duty to give full closure to these clerks. These clerks, before you get in a position of employment, you better know the terms of your employment. You need to know the rules of how you perform. You need to know the rules and the tasks of what you're supposed to do. This is his duty to give closure to that. So we're identifying that in paragraph I. And if you don't give full closure, and it says with the vacant full closure as the constructive fraud, because he's constructing this. He's putting this all into motion. So is this a constructive fraud? So we're looking at the verb of thinking back in within the message. Not looking at the message. We're here to destroy the messenger. We're here to look at the thinking. What was the thinking to create all this fiasco? Because it's a mess, to be quite honest with you. And there are people here that are seriously damaged. But the federal-postal court is not accountable for that. For we did our job. We stayed in our venue. And this is our venue. We don't identify with what Layton's got going on. We could only identify with what we had to deal with, which was David Eifert, Wincole, and Miller. And the volition. Paragraph J. With the stop authorizings of persons. So we're telling him, quit authorizing people. You got to remember, this is back in 2014. Stop, because you're going to create shipwrecks. We don't want people to get shipwrecked. We want them to navigate. We want them to be peaceful. We want them to have fruits and wealth and harvest and reap and sow and be happy. We're not looking for destruction. That's not why we're in this. We're in this to build each other, to help each other, to give closure. So stop. Stop authorizing persons. So anybody that he authorized after this date, 2014, their authorizations, as of this day, is no longer. Because now the world has closure, and it will judge itself. We'll judge the forensics. We will take a look at that and make sure it's on the video for this presentation, for this documentary.
It is on the site.
Yeah. So once we did this on the civil sector, we're not done. So this was all done, and then we're talking about bills of the ladings here at the very end. Basically telling them, stop authorizing persons with a vacant full closure, federal postal judges, federal postal clerks, banks, bankers. Basically telling them, don't authorize any more judges, don't authorize any more clerks, don't authorize anyone until you can perform a full closure scenario where the facts, the correctness, and the education is in position for these persons to join the construct. You're done. This is not a debatable issue. These are the facts. I'm not here to debate this. And so in 2014, he was stopped from authorizing anyone else in quantum grammar. For the safeguard of the court, for the safeguard of the construct, and for the safeguard of those who are actively being correct within that construct. I want you to all know there are hundreds of people that are federal postal judges that you guys have never heard of, that are legitimate, bona fide, will tear most everybody in this room up. You don't see them out here running their mouths. You don't see them out here filing. They're taking care of and managing their own sovereignty of their own lives. And they're going to watch this and then they go, you're darn right we are. Good job. Good job, Russell. Told them all the truth. You were honest with people. You gave them the full closure. This is my chance to give full closure. I have not had that chance. But now that I have the copyrights, I can. So that's why I've set up the foundation a little earlier today, to give you guys the necessary closure that if you want to join our system as a tenant, we're going to give you full closure here. So you know all the functions and the liabilities and the performances and duties of the word terms. You have the functions of the guidelines of the corporate construct, which will now give you clarity before you go making a decision to go off and sue somebody or navigate your life or go collect finances or go to your jobs or go to your banks or go to all the things that control the grammar of the lifestyles which our mankind can definitely join in. And it's a wonderful thing. But the first thing we need to do is undo and give closure to that which has been done. So then, if the claim of the life citizens come forward here and want to join, we can give them more tools. We can give them, because I don't want to micromanage this. I want all of you to micromanage yourselves. This is a double-edged sword when you start looking at the verb of thinking, because the thinking will never change the condition of the act. So be careful what you think and perform, because you just might get a double-edged sword on that. And that's even with myself. So I take accountability, I look myself in the eye, and I take accountability every day for myself before I come up and make these accusations. Because I'm humbly here today, giving closure, which I have now the solitary right to do. Where are we at here? We told Dave to stop. Okay. So the next question we asked Dave is for your volition of the wrong guidance, of wrong guidance hyphen persons, and or stealing values, cargoes, and judgments. Is the condition of mind here, if you're going to shipwreck people, is the volition to steal, to lead people down the wrong paths? What's the condition of thinking? Because I want to know. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to give you guys full closure and say you don't have to be a part of that. We fixed it. The solutions are fixed, not only in this concept, but on a macro concept that this world has not yet found out, which I've done for you all. From finance, to homes, to energies, to longevity. There's some things here that will come out, and all of you can benefit under the tendencies of the construct that has been laid here, and the full closure of the copyrights that you will no longer be students. We've got to change the psyche here. Okay, we got to change all that. You're no longer students. Students don't get paid.
Lieutenants.
You're tenants.
Lieutenants pay.
Tenants pay a fee for freight. Technology is given where it's well earned, well deserved. If someone doesn't have the capacity to comprehend certain things, I'm not going to wrong lead that person and say, oh, go right ahead. You're now a federal postal judge. Jump on out there. I'm not going to do that to anybody. That's my oath. You read my oath. So I do the exact directional of a 180 because I'm not going to wrong lead. I'm going to look at the condition of my heart. Would I authorize someone to be a federal postal judge, spin him off into locations, and tell him to go tear it up? I certainly won't. And you can ask. There are hundreds of people that have asked me to authorize them as a federal postal judge, federal postal clerks. I won't do it. They have to show that they have certified knowledge of what that means, especially in the banking arena. You gotta see these bankers that I get to deal with. Huh. What? Yeah, right. Just shake my head going, oh, it's bad. But it can be fixed. They do have knowledge. They do have the capacity to stop and correct. Because they're still here. It's sad that David is not. But the world's going to look at this. The world's going to judge this. We're not here to destroy the message. We're here to take a look at the volition, the condition of mind. Why was this done? I do not have the honor to figure that out. But now I can share it with you because of the copyrights. And this is just on the civil side. Okay, we'll get into the military side here in a bit. So, are you here is your volition here to wrong lead or steal things? Using the numbers, and we put the numbers down there. There's Leighton's number, there's Cheryl's number, there's my number, and then we put him at the end, and we put a question mark. What's your condition of mind? Why would you do this? Why would you go out and authorize federal postal judges, federal postal clerks, when you didn't give them the foundation so that it can make a clear choice to help our fellow mankind? Because those federal postal clerks and those people that he was working with, I don't know their condition of mind. Maybe they're here to help. But if they don't have the terms and the closure, it's a shipwreck for everything involved with it. Out of my control. But not today, it isn't. Today's the first time in my life that it's back in my control. Because I have the shipping activity on this thing. We have the shareholders. We have the terms. We have complied with the performance of the functions. And the fiction synthetic federal government knows this. They've been watching me for a long time. I've been at this a long time. And so is Monty. And Monty, too, is also stayed very humble. He's not out in the limelight. He's not trying to do all these things. If we make a choice to enter into contract, it's done with the full closure and the volition to perform it and not to wrong lead people. To make sure that you all have the necessary closure. From ownership of the flag to the bills of the ladings and the functions of your tenancy here. But to answer your question, there are fees and duties for usury, depending on the function of what you're trying to get done. Because you don't want to trespass into other people's operations and theaters. So you have to walk that tough love position. I'll be over here, I'll be correct, this is my volition, this is what my business is trying to do, this is how it's helping mankind. We're not here to help humans. Humans are monsters. So we're here for our fellow mankind. We're not here on a humanitarian project, little monster projects. We're here for our fellow mankind. So the thinking must change as we enter into setting up our functions and how that moves forward. And it's on all of us, myself and all of you, to bring those solutions to the table. We just have a function that people can join and put their cargoes aboard the function of the construct. It's up to the people who want to do good, who want to help, to bring forth their cargoes. Get the necessary background. That's why this is going to be a great video for those entering into businesses that are looking to enter into this. This is going to be a great background for you to go, yes, 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 and then come forward with your questions, which we'll sit down and have full closure on so we can create solutions for our fellow mankind. So we're asking the questions on this one just to finish up. Is for your volition of the wrong guidance and stealing. What are you doing here? And then we give the numbers, and I said, it's fact. this number was mailed to Monty. And he's on the mail slip of the clerk, Leighton Ward, contracts. What you doing? Telling them in the federal courts and in the federal courts that number is not to be used for Leighton. It's not Leighton's number. Monty's number. Monty's on the slip on that. So we're telling him the facts. So that's how that works. Paragraph 9. Oh, postage due. We're filing a warrant against the ship's company of these cargo of words so that we can have a now time performance that, oh, anytime somebody steps up with latent cases, yeah, that's out the door. Here's why. Boom, 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 boom. So all latent cases are disqualified. So that's where that's at. And Cheryl's and Mark's and the people that he's authorized since 2004. That's all nonsense. And he knew it. Paragraph 10. Oh, so now we're getting into more of the shipping concepts of the rocks and shoals. Here we're using the rocks and shoals, taking his vessels and just throwing them into the shore, saying that they're no longer good until you stop and perform. We need latent fixed. We need Cheryl fixed. We need Mark fixed. We need to stop and correct here collectively so that people don't get damaged by the wreck that will happen if they move forward with these people. And that's what paragraph 10 is about. And it talks about the postage due with these numbers and how this works. This is a federal postal bill for David. Here's your postage due. Well, we never got the chance to. The world's going to have to judge what that postage is due, right? Because there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of shipwrecks. There's a lot of cargo being hammered here. Basically, tangible things, certified warrants, postage, stamp copies, the right of David Arthur Will Miller to attach. So basically, we're attaching Dave's, because there's a lot of unsuspecting people out here that are going under contract with Dave through the years. So now we're looking at taking attachments and looking at the performances. This paragraph gives us authorization to go back in and look at things here on Dave's legal matters. So anything that's involved with David under legal function from that day forward, we can take a look at and give counsel on, give it a pass or give it a no. You've been lied to, you've been wrong. But at the whole time holding no liability for that which David has done. So this is relieving the federal postal court of the liability for spinning these persons up, authorizing people, and they're unsuspecting. And they may have knowledge, like some of these people have knowledge now, like the guy in London. He has knowledge now. Could you explain a little bit about that and what you read on the emails, Monty?
Yeah, sorry, my mic was out. You're talking about Mark Kershawn?
Yes.
Well, I have a student. Maybe I can't see him in the audience. Lester. I don't know if he's there.
Yeah,
Raise your hand if you're there. I thought it was you. I got half a picture of you. Joey came to me and wanted me to start teaching him syntax. I started teaching him syntax, and come to find out his comprehension or difficulty in comprehending syntax had to do with Kershawn's lack of capacity to syntax himself. So he's teaching people and taking money for syntaxing when he doesn't know it.
Yeah, I was not present. I've not been on your guys' grammar calls. I'm only going off of what you and Mr. Lester or Joey Fulcola Lester are saying. And he's telling me that he was tricked into an educational class, that he thought he was getting an education and he had to unlearn everything that he paid for.
Correct, which is he's saying it's very difficult to unlearn a mistake. And anyhow, I don't know if he'd like to speak about his experience with Kershaw.
No, well, I don't. No. He keep it on. Yeah. So there's other people out here that are making these presumptions. But hopefully after they've seen the video and the public has a chance to watch this video, that they'll be able to go, okay, that's not the route to go. We're not trying to be disrespectful towards those people. We just want to make sure that we have no more shipwrecks out here. That's all we're looking at. We're just simply looking at the carnage of what we're seeing. And
Well,
viewing.
my apologies. I didn't mean to come across as though as I was going after someone. I was trying to come across as an educator that has a student to show that the student is articulating that he's not learning the correct things from the person who's saying he's giving him the correct things. That was simply my point. It was not an attack.
Did you see emails between myself and Kershawn about him stopping and correcting and not stopping and correcting?
I've seen emails between you and him. I honestly, Russell, I don't recall other than the fact that I believe that you talked to him and he hasn't talked to you since.
Yes. I showed you the Skype conversation, remember?
Yeah.
And basically with this gentleman, he's been told not to use the number. And what he did, which was very unfortunate, and I don't want to tell the story because it damages people, so I'm not going to throw stones at him. But he got out on the public preview on YouTube with David, and David was telling stories, and the stories were half true. But if you knew the actors and the people that were involved in that, it showed a different side of David. And so I'm not going to bash that right now. I'm just going to let that sit. I don't want to gossip or say bad. I'm not trying to say bad about David. I'm just trying to look at the volition and the forensics, which I have the right to today. That's all. Because there's a lot of people out here that may take value into watching this because they've been damaged by these people who they've been participated with, mainly Leighton, Cheryl, and Mark, and David for the last since 2004. So, yeah, I'm not going to say anything bad. I just know that Mark has no authorization to use that number, my number, that's on all his contracts. So, that's called stealing somebody's identity. You're stealing somebody else's work without the consent of that person. And that's, I'm not going to say that's wrong. I'm going to say for the condition of the mind with the theft of the global corporation postal number RR 294-568-221 US with the thinking and knowledge by the claim of the life being Mark Christopher Kershawn ?
I believe it's Mark Kershawn
Mark Kershawn Christopher. Whatever your name is, whoever you are, what's the condition of mind? That's all I got to say about that. Okay, so these are our federal postal navigations. So this is pretty standard stuff that we have in lawsuits dealing with freight forwarding, vessel bonding. All of our vessels and lawsuits have bonds and different things for navigation, straight way bills, freight way bills, switching way bills, transit way bills, putting cargo on and off vessels, as well as bills of the ladings, sea passes, land passes, postal route numbers, postal route locations, 3-day rescission closure, so we're giving notice 3-day rescissions, passport numbers, and just typically freight forwarding of the contract. So that's a pretty standard thing. This was the lawsuit. Now we're going to get into the summary judgment. So there's many things that were happening here in this case. I'm not sure what we're looking at here. We're still in the civil time. Okay, yeah, we've got time to go through the summary judgment. Now we did this all on the civil side, and then I took it to the martial law side on August 17th of 2017. I believe it was August 17th. Yeah, we'll get into that as well. But are there any questions so far about, are you guys being able to comprehend structure, function, performance, evidence? Are there any questions? Now let's take a 10-minute break. It's a good time to take a break.